Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all. This movie is a horror film from the United States, English language, released in the year 2024, directed by Stuart Ortiz, and this film is called Strange Harvest. So Strange Harvest is a mockumentary style of true crime horror film. We have detectives and witnesses that are being interviewed for this documentary surrounding the case of Mr. Shiny. Now Mr. Shiny is a vicious serial killer. In the 90s he killed a few people, but then he had an 18-year hiatus. Now he's starting up again and the police don't know why. So when the police are trying to stop this guy, the crimes are getting more brutal and more frequent, but when they realise why he's doing this, it's far more terrifying than anyone could ever have imagined. So what happens at that point on is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Strange Harvest. I was really excited for three reasons. Number one, it's a found footage horror film. Number two, it's a mockumentary style of, true crime mockumentary style of true crime documentary, and so it's very reminiscent of Poughkeepsie Tapes, which happens to be one of my favourite horror films. And number three, it's certified as fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Now I know better than to judge a film by what Rotten Tomatoes says, but it's very rare that a horror film is certified fresh. And so I thought to myself, this is a recipe for success. A lot of people love this movie, a lot of people recommended me this film, and so I thought to myself, this is a movie that's going to really nail it. This is a movie that's going to make me excited to go out there and recommend to everybody. And so having my fingers crossed that it was going to live up to their expectations, at the end of the day, when I watched this film, I will say that this is one of the most disappointing horror films that I've seen in a while. And so I don't agree with the majority. You guys know that I'm brutally honest. If I'm being brutally honest, I just don't see the love that this movie has. When compared to Poughkeepsie Tapes, I thought Poughkeepsie Tapes was so much better. But that's not saying that Strange Harvest was a complete waste of time. There are some likeable qualities to it, but the striking negatives really prevented me from liking it. And so the first positive to this movie is atmospherically, it is very dark and dreaded, very similar to Poughkeepsie Tapes. This is a movie that has a very dark serial killer, and you have the violence that is not shown on screen. You have the crime scene photos, and you have the body cam footage, but it's the aftermath of the violence, and so it's forcing you to use your imagination, which can be far more terrifying than actually seeing it. I know a lot of people like seeing the violence, but for me, using that imagination, creating the monster inside your head is far more effective, and I thought as though it really nailed it as far as creating that sense of dread, creating that sense of hopelessness that this serial killer was very smart and the police had no idea as to how to stop him, and so it almost felt like he had free range on whoever he wanted, and that made it really, really scary. So the mockumentary style of movie for the first quarter of the film actually worked quite well, and so it is nasty. Atmospherically is actually quite decent, and there are a lot of questions that beg answering, and that's what maintained my interest. Although it did outstay its welcome quite considerably, I still wanted to find out what was behind this serial killer, and that's where the positives stop, and unfortunately this is where the negatives begin. It's just not that well written. I thought the script was really lacking, and before I knew it, I just thought to myself, this is getting really, really tiresome. So as far as a true crime documentary, I just thought as though they had content there, but they just didn't have the wheels to really get over the finish line, and so I found myself quite bored. I thought the repetitive nature of what was going on was starting to become tiresome. I thought the acting wasn't very good. These detectives being interviewed, I thought to myself, you're acting, you're reading off a script, it doesn't really give you the sense that this is a real documentary, and so it defeats the purpose of that true crime kind of feel. And so Poughkeepsie Tapes was so much better because it had a lot more realism, it had a lot more authenticity, whereas this film really struggles for that authenticity. And there's a little bit of a twist as to this serial killer that I thought once again defeated the purpose of what this style of horror film should be. And so the self-awareness really wasn't there, the script wasn't there, it wasn't very well acted, and unfortunately for me I just found myself wanting a lot more from a film that has this much accolades. And it just goes to show, just because the majority of the audience love a film doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to like a movie. And so it does have really, really creepy moments, it does have some pretty brutal moments, but overall it's a bit of letdown, and it's one of the most disappointing movies I've seen in a while. So overall, for Strange Harvest, not sharing a love, I'm going to give this film 2 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.